Dear learners, welcome to the session of the course MSD 015 Institution Governance and Policies. For the program Master of Arts in Sustainability Science and the Postgraduate Diploma in Sustainability Science. In this session, we are going to look into the topic Emergence of International Ecopolitics. Before coming into the particular area where we are going to discuss, today we have evidence that the global economy is being run in an unsustainable manner. Again, the future prediction of an economic and a political class of Earth are shattering proportions. So, there is a need to set ecology at the center of politics and policy making, not around the edges of politics and policy making. Okay, so we need to look the proper understanding of environmental issues at different level, say in local, national, and global level. Then only we will be able to achieve sustainable development. So there is a clear-cut indication that there is a clear-cut indication that to bring sustainable development, we need a effective environmental policies. So then, what is politics? It is a very common word. It comes from the Greek word politika, means affairs of the cities, and it is the set of activities that are associated with making that decision-making body in a groups or others form of power, the power relationship among individuals, such as distribution of resources or status, right? So we have a political system. And that political system is a framework which defines acceptable political methods within a society. So in this session, we are going to look into the political ecology and the politics of environmental science, emergence, how international ecopolitics was emerged. Then we'll come to a brief idea on Agenda 21, that Millennium Development Goals, then present era of Sustainable Development Goal, how it emerged in international ecopolitics. What is political ecology? Political ecology is the study of the intersection and relationship between the political, as we know, and environmental and ecological phenomena. One of the different authors like Raymond L. Brandt and Sinit Valley, they have developed three fundamental assumptions in practicing political ecology. The first is the costs and the benefits associated with the environmental change are distributed unequally. That is why we have seen different wars like World War I and II. The war was because of to fight for the resources, as we know, if we look from the ecological point of view. On the other hand, access to the resources, it is about the power. So the changes in the environment do not affect society in a homogeneous way, And if you look from political point of view, if you look from social point of view and economic point of view. So this political, social, and economic differences account for uneven distribution of what we're talking about, cost and benefit. So here, political power plays an important role in bringing such inequalities, right? The second is this unequal environmental distribution inevitably reinforces or reduces the existing social and economic inequalities. Say, in an assumption, if we assume that political ecology runs into political economy, as any change in environmental condition that will affect the politic and that political and economic status, or that the status quo of politics and economy. The third The last is that this unequal distribution of cost and benefits and the reinforcing or reducing of pre-existing inequalities that hold political implication in terms of altering power relationships that are produced. Okay? So, this political ecology can be used to inform policy makers and organization of the complexities surrounding the environment development, thereby contributing to better the governance, another form of governance called environment and governance. Okay, then this political ecology can be used to understand the decision that communities make about their natural environment. In what context? In the context of their political environment, economic pressure, and societal regulation. As we know that the nature-society interaction is governed by with these three important aspects, that environment, your environment, economic and societal regulation that can be looked from political angle. Like, again, this political ecology can be looked from at how unequal relation in and among society affect the natural environment, especially if we look from the context of the way the government is implementing its policy. Okay? We have to understand, before looking into emergence of how this international ecopolitics emerges, we need to look into what is the relation between political ecology and the politics of environment and science. And it's as you know, it is a widely debated thing. Today, what debate issues we are talking, it is directly we are talking about relation between political ecology and the politics of environment and science. That is, like when we talk about greenhouse gas emission, when we talk about climate change, when we talk about different aspects of pollution and so on. So, these debates concerning political ecology that refers to the social and political condition surrounding the causes, experience, and management of environmental issues, right? So, different approaches, there are different approaches to the meaning or to understand the meaning of ecology in political ecology. What is our understanding and how to understand political ecology with linkages to environment, with specific reference to environment? So, there are 5 that linkages may be looked into. First one is, because when we are trying to characterize of environment and problem, there are some phenomenological interactions happen. It may be from a biophysical, it may be because of human needs, it is because of wider political system. So, this characteristic can be looked from the perspective of political ecology with that of the linkage of environment in 5 ways. Firstly, when you talk about political ecology, it is a concern of ecology plus political economy, right? Together, this encompasses the constantly shifting dialectic between your society and land-based resources. And also, you will find that within the classes and groups of society itself, right? The second is, there is the politics of ecology in the sense of political activism, which is in favor of, like we have seen, deep green environmentalism, and in the same time we have its critique of modernity and capitalism. That's why once of the author Atkinson wrote, this political ecology is both a set of theoretical propositions and ideas on the one hand. On the other hand, a social movement, which is referred as the ecology movement. That latest stage, this ecological movement is, we commonly use as green movement. The third aspect is, we use the term ecology. It is a metaphor of the interconnectedness of political relations. This metaphor, if you really look into the genesis of this metaphor, it was first adopted by the first book with political ecology in its title, International Regions and the International System, a study in political ecology written by Bruce M. Russell in 1967. But in that book itself had no discussion of biophysical environment change or environmental conservation. Fourthly, when you look into the political ecology and the politics of environment and science, its linkages, it is a specific analysis of Marxist debates about materialism, justice, and nature in capitalist societies, with a view to achieving a fairer distribution of the rights and resources. So, political ecology is based on a theorized understanding of the order of the existing things, right? So, more specifically, if you look into the Marx and the Greens, they focus on a very precise sector of real world, that is the human-nature relationship. And if you look at human-nature relationship precisely, this again, it contains the relation among people that pertain to nature, means the relation of the different individual, right? And the Marxists call that people as productive forces. Finally, there is the use of political ecology to refer in general terms to the politics of environmental problems. There is no specific discussion about ecology. Example, this you will see, it is the inquiry into the political forces, condition and the ramification of environmental change. When we talk about that, most of the time we avoid the meaning of ecology, role of ecology. So sometimes in such example include studies of environmental impact from different sources, location in specific aspect of ecological change, and the effect of environmental change on socio-economic and political relationship, right? So how this emergence of this, what we use the term international ecopolitics emerges. As we know that in the 1970s, the ecological movement has become a political movement. In that time, the demand of ecology were not just sectoral or local. So in the late 1960s, when Raquel Carson published her book, The Silent Spring, that have opened the Pandora box of the impact of the chemicals to our environment and how it enters to our human system also. Then, Smith in 1996 also, it talks about how that the value, environment and value means product value shared across different nation and its divides. Then we have the publication of the limits to growth by the Club of Rome in 1972. So this emergence of international ecopolitics can be looked from different approaches to the meaning of ecology and political ecology. Say in 1970s, as I mentioned, that we have followed by that after Stockholm Conference, we have green movement, deep ecology, social ecology, then technocratic environmentalists. Then to 1980s, we were evidence with different international concerns through different conferences and agreements. At last, we know that we have 1992 Rio Conference, United Nations Conference of Environment Development, 20 years after Stockholm Conference. After that, 1992, we have the global effort is trying to institutionalize or institutionalization of that solution to environmental problems, right? Then we have the output Agenda 21, Millennium Development Goal and SDGs. The publication is, if we started from 1970s onward, you will one of the important publication that report limits to growth by the Club of Rome 1972 that shows the scientific backing to these cultural demands of consumptive environment, affluent lifestyle that has a risk posed by the model of industrial growth on the future of life on the earth. Again, if you look from a holistic view of the interrelationship between population growth, food production, consumption, the industrialization process that depletes renewable resources and that creates a waste and pollution at different level, and that reaches from your local level to regional to global level. So this waste and pollution, they are the problem for the living condition and consumption patterns of the population. That's exactly what Clubs of Rome's publications. So this is the first time the environmental degradation provoked by economic growth was considered from a global perspective. Before that, occasionally we must have used or we must be questioning our pollution problem during 1950s or 60s. Even when we had different world war, we never talk about the impact of environmental impact or pollution impact of all those wars. This report launches a real debate on the morality of growth and of the differences in consumption and living standards between developed and developing countries, and triggered the green movements, right? So let us try to look into the different approaches to the meaning of ecology in political ecology. First is, as I mentioned, is deep ecology. First is deep ecology, right? This deep ecology is basically based on the challenges, the separation between human and nature that was at the heart of modern humanism. Deep ecology is not anthropocentric, it is ecocentric. It remains a fairly marginal wing of the green movement, means those movements is entirely looking from deep ecology perspective or who is imbibed by deep ecology. Their tendency to refuse to consider economic policy and to assume a purely conservationist standpoints that relegates them to a secondary position. Okay? So contrary to deep ecologists, then the second, the socio-ecology movement or social ecologists, they maintain an anthropocentric perspective. So the concern for nature is understood as a concern for the human, for the environment of human beings. That is what the social ecology movement. The social ecologists that seek transformation in production and reproduction systems, that is transformation of political economy is the way to achieve sustainability, social equity, and well-being. So these social ecologists, they call for a rethinking of the theoretical basis of development that should include not only economic but also the political and epistemological dimension, such as the questions of participation, the question of empowerment, and the importance of local knowledge system. For them, the sociologists, what makes development unsustainable at the global levels is the pattern of consumption in rich countries. The another approach is technocratic tendency to the green movement. This is a tendency that tries to make economic growth and environmental protection appears as compatible goals, which need not require a profound change in values, motivation, and economic interest of social actors, no new models of economic accumulation. It is because capitalist production methods and life standards are not developed enough that environmental problems emerge. The evidence is that environmental standards are higher in richer countries. So preservation of the environment through the establishment of international institutions started that. Use of economic market instrument and development of clean and green technology. The technocratic approach appears to be prevailing over both the biocentric, that deep ecology and social ecology perspective, and has become what today the mainstream environmentalism, which finds its major expression the concept of sustainable development, right? So this international political agenda that emerged in 1980s, that growing concern with environment protection. So there is a multiplication of the number of international conferences and agreements in this particular era. So environmental protection, which is presently recognized as a major political issue and has acquired a well-defined position on the international political agenda. Like we have international climate issues in 1980s that was started to change as a debt crisis that was seriously affecting developing countries and their role and participation in international forum. Then International Commission established to elaborate global proposal to promote peace and development, such as we had Brown Commission in 1980. Common efforts were also undertaken to place environmental protection on the international political agenda. The World Commission on Environment Development was established in 1983 under the presidency of Gro Harlem Brundtland and urged to produce a comprehensive report on the situation of the environment at a global level. So the work of the Commission that represented a landmark in international initiative to promote environmental protection as it produced the concept of sustainable development, a concept that would become the basis of environmental politics worldwide. So the concept of sustainable development was built as a political expression of the recognition of the fitness of natural resources and of its potential impact on economic activities. So the Brundtland report that also promoted the view that global environmental degradation can be seen is a source of economic disruption and political tension, therefore entering the sphere of strategic consideration of or environment policy formulation. Then followed, we have United Nations Conference of Environment Development that was held in Rio de Janeiro 1992 that marked the official institutionalization of environmental issues in the international political agenda. So 20 years after 1972, Stockholm Conference on Human Environment, Rio, the real shift in the vision that had dominated environmental politics till then. So after Rio, the environmental consideration became incorporated into development and a global bargain was struck between that North and the South on the basis of the acceptance from both sides of the desirability of achieving a truly global economy which would guarantee growth and better environmental records to all. So in September 2000, at the Millennium Summit, leaders pledged that the world would achieve measurable improvement in the most critical area of human development by 2015. Then one of the important output of Agenda 21 that institutionalized in global environment and politics, that environment politics is Agenda 21, right? That was a unique moment in diplomatic history. The most elaborate attempt that ever to develop institutional solution to major environmental problem. So this Agenda 21, that's a 700-page global plan of action which should guide countries towards sustainability through the 21st century that encompasses virtually every sector affecting environment and development. So the full implementation of Agenda 21, the program for further implementation of Agenda 21 and the commitment to the Rio Principle were strongly reaffirmed at the World Summit on Sustainable Development held in Johannesburg, South Africa from 26 August to 4 September 2002. So if you look into the Agenda 21, it is non-binding and voluntarily, but it is an action plan of United Nations related to sustainable development. It's a product of, as you know, UN conference, and this is how the beginning of the global efforts on sustainable development. Then followed by we have Millennium Development Goals. In September, in Millennium Development Goals, we know that in September 2000, the largest gathering of world leaders in human history gathered for this Millennium Summit at the United Nations headquarters in New. In that pivotal year, representatives from 189 member states of the UN, they met to reflect on their common destiny. So that nations were interconnected, which was never before, with increased globalization promising faster growth, higher living standards, and new opportunities. So by 2015, the leader pledged the world would achieve measurable improvement in the most critical areas of human development. So the United Nations Economic and Social Council, which is a principal body of coordination, policy review, policy dialogue, and recommendation on issues of economic and social development, that has been vested with a responsibility for the follow-up of the MDGs. So that would be done through the annual ministerial review and development cooperation forum. So that follows, we have sustainable development goals, which has to be achieved by 2030, which have 17 important goals. And now every nation, every state, and every nation, we are trying hard to achieve SDGs by 2030. This is how about emergence of international ecopolitics. And in this session, what we were trying to understand, what we learned was that what we learned in this session, political ecology and the politics of environmental science in brief, then how the international ecopolitics was emerged, and role of that brief about Agenda 21 and journey from Agenda 21 to Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much. See you in another session.